Hey everyone, thank you so much for coming today. I'm really excited and I'm really sorry we're starting a tiny bit late. Thank you so much for everyone showing up. Those that are watching the replay, hi, you're still really welcome here. So I want to start by telling you a little bit more about myself, and then I'm going to talk about how this webinar will go. And you're always invited to stop me and ask questions in the chat box on the side if you like. Yeah. So my name is Sarah. I'm a web designer and online marketing specialist. I have been doing this for the past 2 years and really love this work. I've worked with dozens, if not hundreds, of entrepreneurs in their first and second year of business to really kind of help them create beautiful online platforms that work for them and that feel authentic and fun, and most of all, also that are really easy to handle. So the core of my business is often web design. That's usually how I start working with people. I specialize in creating custom WordPress sites built with Divi. And I often work with health coaches and artists and creatives, all kinds of really cool people that I have a lot in common with. Sorry, my earphones are kind of slipping out. um, so yeah, it's been a really interesting journey. I did an MA in creative media, which I graduated from in 2014. And then in 2015, I did B school. And I kind of went into B school not knowing exactly what I wanted to do. I had these like vague ideas of maybe wanting to be a coach. Don't we all want to be some kind of coach? So that was interesting. And B school just gave me so much more clarity around what I wanted to do in my business and with my life. And I had been working in e-commerce and for all of my 20s. So I'm 31 now, and I had been working for 7 or 8 years for e-commerce companies in Berlin and London, which was a really interesting time, but it was just not exactly what I wanted to do with my life. I worked really long hours and I was just missing creativity really, and I wanted to work on a more personal level, one-on-one. And that's really the main part that I enjoy about my work so much now, that I get to really hold people's hand and, be with them on that journey, which is so beautiful. So yeah, that's me, and I want to talk a little bit about how we're going to run this webinar. So this is my first one ever, and as you can imagine, I'm a tiny bit nervous, so please bear with me. You're going to get the replay as well. So just to kind of let you know, there's going to be a replay. It would be great if you can take notes. You can ask questions at any point during the webinar, but you're also welcome to reach out afterwards and either email me or come into my Facebook group and just say hi, introduce yourself, let us know what you're working on. We're going to split the webinar up into 3 different sections. So the first section is all about WordPress and why I love it so much. And the second part is about how you can create mood boards for yourself. So that's kind of the fun part in web design and branding for most people. We're going to talk about colors a little bit and where you can find inspiration. And I'm going to show you how I usually create mood boards for my clients. And then the third part is all about preparing your web design content. So I have often worked with people who are really struggling to kind of make sense of all the different options and questions like what is too much and what is too little, how do I write my about page, and how many pages do I need in total. So I want to really help you to kind of get some clarity around that and make that a little bit easier. I'm going to jump between the face view that you're seeing right now and my presentation. So I might not see your questions right away when I'm in the presentation mode, but feel free to just ask me anytime. Cool. So I'm going to share my screen with you now. Just double check this works. It does. That's great. Okay, fantastic. So I'm sorry I'm scrolling here. I wish I had prepared a fancy keynote presentation. That didn't work. But you can still see. So yeah, this is the overview that I've just touched on. As I said, you're welcome to ask questions anytime. And remember, there will be a replay, and there's a typo, so you don't have to remember everything. So let's begin by talking about how I love WordPress so much. So I get people ask me all the time, can't I just get like a really easy Squarespace or Wix page? and does it really have to be WordPress, and what is the difference between WordPress.org and WordPress.com? So WordPress.org means that you're installing a the WordPress software onto your own hosting account, which you have to sign up for. And the great benefit with that is that you really own your own website, and you have so much design and flexibility with the, and with the functionality as well, which I will touch on in a minute. So WordPress.com is also from WordPress, but it's not a self-hosted site. It's very different, and it's easy to transfer to WordPress.com from WordPress.com to WordPress.org. But I really recommend that you make a start on WordPress.org right away, because it means that your site can expand with your business, and so that's just going to make your life so much easier. So one of the things that I really love about WordPress is that 22.5% of all websites on the internet are made with WordPress, which blew my mind when I first came across this fact. And why this is cool is that whenever you have a problem, it's super likely that someone else has already had that problem as well. So, be that you're struggling integrating your newsletter, or maybe there's a problem with your contact page or the form that you're using, you can really Google any problem that you might experience with WordPress, and there's very likely already a solution. The other thing is that if you're struggling with anything, I'm such a believer in building stuff yourself, and I totally believe that you can do it, and it can be super fun and a great, really empowering experience. But if you do want to hire support, it's really easy to find someone who will understand exactly what you've started to build or what someone else has created for you. So there's just hundreds and maybe hundreds of thousands of people who specialize in WordPress development. Then there are 2,600 and more themes to choose from. So really, whatever you're trying to create, there will be a theme out there for you that you can use that can help you create exactly the website that you would love to have. So the WordPress theme that I really love is Divi. Because it's very flexible, it comes with a bunch of templates, but you can also start from scratch, which you can imagine as like starting with a clean canvas and just taking it from there. The other benefit is that you own your website and you can back it up. So if you're on WordPress.org, you really have full control, and the content that you're creating over time is yours. And you can also take care of your own security. So you can have backups in place and security plugins, all of which is really not as hard as it might sound in the beginning. Next point is that it's much easier to optimize your site for SEO. So of course, if you're starting a business or even just a blog, you want to make sure that people can find you. And optimizing SEO is a really important part of kind of making sure that Google can crawl your site properly, and that if someone searches for something that is relevant to what you're offering, that they can find you more easily. I think this is really just kind of touching the surface with this, and there's so much more to say on that. And I'm totally happy to run another webinar on SEO, by the way. But just to let you know, it is quite important, and it's not outdated. It's actually something that you can really easily do if you're on WordPress. And then there are over 31,000 plugins to extend the basic functionality, many of which are free. So when you're using WordPress, you can search the plugin kind of database there, and so many of these are free. And you can think of it as kind of WordPress being this basic, beautiful tool, and then these plugins are kind of like little bubbles that you can use to extend the basic functionality. So one example would be I have social media sharing icons under all of my blog posts that make it really easy for people to share my content, and there's a plugin called Monarch. Or maybe you want to have people opt into your newsletter on the homepage. You can really easily do that with Bloom, for example. And then there's other plugins that add things like security and spam filters to your website. And I have a blog post where I'm listing all the plugins that I recommend. So even though there's so many of them, it is really easy to kind of narrow it down to 10 and kind of think about what do you need and what you don't need. But it's also just really good to know that, whatever you might need in the future, it might be there as well, because so many people starting out, just come up with so many ideas that they had never thought about in the beginning. I know that I never thought I would be teaching online courses or running webinars when I was starting out. I really just wanted to be a web designer, and now I'm doing all these other things, and I'm just so grateful that I'm on WordPress so that I can just grow as my ideas grow. And then finally, it integrates well with all kinds of magical things that you can grow with your business. So I've already touched on that briefly. If, for example, you want to teach courses on Teachable, or you want to run webinars, it's very easy to integrate that on your WordPress site. And that's not always possible with other platforms that you might want to use. I just want to double check. Oh yeah, I got a question here. How easy is it to switch to WordPress? I'm currently with Wix and I'm not happy, but scared to switch because I'm not sure what the process looks like. Cool, yeah, that's a really good question. So when I support clients in doing that, what I usually do is that we look at the existing site on Wix or Squarespace together, and the client tells me what they like or don't like about it. And then I'm advising them in a little bit more detail of like what could a conversion look like. And usually I install a fresh WordPress installation after the client has signed up for the hosting account. And then I kind of move all the content over. And whether or not that's easy to do yourself, to be really honest, really depends on kind of how techy you are and whether or not you enjoy the process. So I have a WordPress course, which I'm going to tell you more about at the end. But that will teach you how you can, recreate pages that you already have or move content over. I would say I can usually do this in a couple of days, depending on how big the website is. And I also find that it really depends on the theme that you're using in WordPress. So as I said, I use Divi, and I always teach my clients how they can make changes further down the line. So, once everything is moved, I make a video for people or meet them on Skype and tell them how they can handle the site. And there's some themes that are more complex, but with Divi, I really find that people understand how to make small changes themselves very easily and how to keep the site updated. But yeah, I'm sorry I can't see your name. I only see your email address, but do let me know if you have more specific questions. And I'm also happy to look at your site really informally and just say like, this could look like that on WordPress, or maybe there's something that would be slightly different. So yeah, do let me know. Cool, coming back to my best tips for choosing a theme. So if you're choosing a premium theme, I would really recommend that you check the customer support and the theme documentation out. So whenever you're paying something, of course, you're kind of expecting that there will be some level of support. And Divi, for example, I was with a different theme before, and before I signed up for Divi, I went in and I looked at the theme documentation. So there should be a couple of files that show you how you can get started with the theme and how you set the basics up. And the more extensive that is, the better, really. I think really great theme documentations also include videos and, checklists and all that kind of stuff. And then you will also want to check that there's a customer support. So with Divi and most other themes, there is like a support forum where you can post your question. And that means that if it's a very common problem, you can just use the search bar and see if someone else has already, asked that question, which is super likely, to be honest. And so that makes everything a lot speedier. You don't have to wait for your reply, and you can just see what solutions have been offered to us, other customers. And then also just check like what the general tone in that forum is. Is the staff really supportive? Are there things that are coming up again and again, which might point towards like a bigger problem with the development of the theme? But yeah, I've made good experiences with Divi, so I recommend that. And then my second tip is, if you see someone else having a really awesome website that you love, you can use wpthemeisthat.com to check what others are using. So if they're using a WordPress site, it's going to let you know what the theme is, and then you can see how much that is and if you like it. So that's good. And then I would say make a list of your needs and decide if you want to work with templates, then prepare your content accordingly. So there's a bunch of free themes as well, and they're usually more fixed static templates, meaning that you choose something where you really like the look and layout of that theme, and then you kind of just go in and you add your copy and your images, and you can't really customize it too much. So sometimes it can look a little bit more impersonal, or maybe not as unique. But if you're just starting out and you're feeling a bit overwhelmed, then this kind of theme can be really great. And it's also great if you're on a budget, because really many of them are free. So I would make a list of your needs, say, do I need things like sliders? Do I want to integrate videos? Do I want to have full flexibility with the colors that I'm using? Or do I have really text heavy parts of my website where I need to be able to kind of work with images to break that up? And so, yeah, make a list of these needs, and then decide if you want to work with templates or if you want to build something from scratch. And if you do decide to work with a template, it makes sense to decide on a theme before you start writing your content, because some themes are a little bit less flexible. So you want to, look what you can create with that theme and see what other people have done, and then write your content around that. And then the last tip I have is always check that the theme is mobile responsive. And that doesn't always mean the same. So sometimes, it really depends on how developed that theme is. Sometimes it looks really amazing on a mobile phone, but there are definitely differences. And just because it says it's mobile responsive doesn't necessarily mean it looks amazing. So I would definitely recommend that, to check that out. Okay, one sec. I'm just going to go back and see if there's another question. Not right now, so that's great. So we can carry on. Okay, your first troubleshooting steps. I just want to kind of take the fear away, if that makes sense, and just tell you that whenever you run into a problem with your own web design, there's definitely something fairly easy that you can do. And if it feels difficult or you're just kind of getting frustrated, I would say step away from the computer first for 10 minutes and do something really different, like unplug, take your dog for a walk, have a nice tea, eat a biscuit, and then come back. And then here's what you can do. So if you're using a premium theme, the first thing always to do is contact the theme support, because very likely they will either already have provided a solution or they will help you out specifically. And then I would see if there's any YouTube tutorials that you can use. So often people, like bloggers like me, have created like a step-by-step tutorial that will teach you how to work around the problem that you're experiencing. And then another resource I want to recommend is wpbeginner.com. So they have amazing guides for absolutely all kinds of things that you might be struggling with. So yeah, they're great. And then finally, if all of these steps haven't fixed your problem yet, I would say deactivate your plugins one by one. And the reason is that sometimes if you're using too many of them, or if they're not being kept updated, they can cause little conflicts. And then just deactivating one of them, and then seeing if your problem has been resolved, and then deactivate the next one. It's really just one click, so it's not going to take you a long time, but that can just give you an idea of where the issue might be. And then if you're using premium plugins, then of course you want to get in touch with the customer care there as well and see if they can help you and find a solution. So let's talk about how you can choose additional software. Let me just check on questions again. Okay, awesome. You guys are amazing. I love this. So many clients kind of ask me what I'm using in my business. So I wanted to touch on that a little bit, and also speak on how WordPress integrates with the different software options that we have. I'm a really, really big fan of keeping things super, super simple, and to really kind of save yourself time. So most processes in my business, I don't have to touch anymore, because I really want to focus on creating great content for you guys and giving all my intention and care to my clients when I'm working with them, rather than doing things that I really don't need to do. So step number one I recommend is making a map of your business needs and long-term goals. So think about where you're currently spending the most time in your business. Is it that you're emailing back and forth with people to make appointments? Or maybe you're spending a lot of time kind of editing things on an old website, or thinking about ways you can be found in Google. So really think about what is your business need, what would you like day to day, what would make it easier, and what are your long-term goals. So as I said in the beginning, when I was starting out, I just wanted to become a really great web designer and build my portfolio, and I didn't think about things like courses or webinars yet. But as I went on, I kind of made this map for my business, and I mapped out what I wanted to achieve. And I then kind of chose the software to support these goals. Then I would suggest that you think about what you want from your systems, and what do you want them to do for you, and how will they work together. So before you invest in anything, especially more expensive software like Infusionsoft or Entreport, I would really check whether you like the user experience and whether it will work with what you already have. And this is why WordPress really is so amazing, because WordPress can be integrated with almost anything that you might want to choose to work with. So my own examples for client intake, teaching courses, and newsletters are ConvertKit for my newsletters, Zapier for integrations, Teachable for courses, Trello for project management, Typeform for form, and Canva for my designs. So ConvertKit I'm using for my newsletters, and there's an integration in place where if someone signs up into the form on my website, goes straight to ConvertKit, and then there I have a nurture sequence that sends out a welcome email that says, hey, thank you so much for signing up. This is what you can expect from my newsletter. You're going to hear from me so and so many times, and here are my most popular blog posts. And then 5 days later, it follows up and says like, hey, have you had a chance to look at the freebie, which is currently like a mini course that I'm offering, which you should check out too, by the way. And here are some more resources, and this is what you can do when you want to work with me. And this kind of nurture sequence is something that I really love in ConvertKit. I have been with MailChimp because it was free when I was starting out. And I was then with Entreport, which was really great from a functionalities point of view, but it was also really expensive and quite time consuming to handle. And I found that ConvertKit kind of is the best of these two worlds. It enables me to do everything that I want to do, but it's not too expensive and it's fairly easy to handle. And I'm using Zapier for integrations. So for example, if someone uses a Typeform, they automatically become a member of my ConvertKit newsletter. And Zapier connects all kinds of different systems together. There's a free version that you can check out, and then the premium version is $20, which in my case is money well spent because it just saves me so much time checking on different things. And then I have my courses on Teachable, and they integrate with WordPress in that my Teachable school is like a tab in my menu bar that opens up into a new window, and it lists all the different courses that I'm offering. It's also my payment gateway, so when someone signs up, they pay on Teachable, and they can get refunds there and access the courses on there. So it saves me a lot of time. I had last year built my own course platform, and I'm going to run another webinar on getting started with that and moving to Teachable and thinking about course development, which should be fun as well. And then I'm using Trello for project management. So I have the free version, and it just has different boards where I'm organizing the different tasks that I'm trying to get on top of and do on a day-to-day basis. And then when I work with clients and they've already decided to work with me, or they're just inquiring about something that I'm offering, I'm using Typeform. Again, there's a free version, and it's just a really beautiful form where people can answer questions like, how do you want people to feel when they first arrive on your website? Can you give me a list of other websites that you really love that we can bounce around ideas from? So that's also saving me some time in terms of emailing people back and forth, and it also integrates with WordPress, which I really like. So you can integrate the Typeform on your WordPress site if you want to, or you can just link it. Then I'm using Canva for my designs. So we're going to look at Canva in a little bit more detail in a minute, but I use it for all my designs, and I have a course on Canva as well, which I really love. So let's look at how you can create branding mood boards. That's another really important step that I recommend people take before you do any practical action on your WordPress site, so to say. So I would say really hone in on the essence of your business. Who do you want to serve, and what are you trying to communicate? And when you look at other businesses, maybe in your industry, how do they achieve creating the mood and the engagement that you are aiming for? And then search for inspiration and collect favorites on Pinterest. I'm going to show you how I'm doing that in a minute when I'm switching back to sharing my screen. Use something like Design Seeds to find amazing mood boards. And again, I'm going to show you that in a second. And then check creativemarket.com. This is where I buy fonts and design elements. And now I want to show you a practical example of a Daydreaming Walls mood board. So I'm going to stop sharing. Just come back to you for a sec. Sorry. Oh, hey, yeah. There's another question. So how easy is it to switch to, yeah, okay. Janice is asking, I have purchased Divi, signed up with Green Geeks, and downloaded WordPress. Does WordPress have a development mode so people can't see my website as I'm developing it? Thank you. Love your work. Oh, thank you, Janice. That's really kind. So let me have a think. It depends a little bit on the hosting account. Usually, and I believe that's something that Green Geeks is offering as well, you can buy both your domain and the hosting account and then say, I don't want to use my domain yet, either because it's on another site currently when you're switching things over, or because you just don't want to be found yet. So there's two different options. You can either get in touch with your host like Green Geeks and say like, hey, I'm just building my site here and I need a temporary domain to build on. And then when I'm completely ready, please switch it over so that the main special proper domain that you want to use is pointing towards this WordPress site that you have created. And I'm pretty sure Green Geeks does do that, but just get in touch with them, and that's something that any host can offer you. And then the second option is if you already have connected your domain and you don't necessarily want to take that extra step, or it's not possible with your host, you can use a plugin that is a screen, what's it called? Sorry, an under construction screen, exactly. So when you're on WordPress, you would go to plugins and then add new, and then in the little search bar, just add search under construction screen, and then there's a ton. I think there's like 50 of them, but choose one of the first ones and make sure to activate that. And it's either then a white screen when people come to your site and are not logged in, or you can add some info of saying like, hey, I'm building something beautiful, come back in a week or 2 weeks or whenever you're ready. And in the meantime, you can email me under this address. So that's what I would recommend. Cool, so I want to show you the mood board that I have created. And for that, I'm going to share my screen again. I'm going to share my I'm going to share the application. I think I just can't have that tab open, so really sorry about that. Can someone maybe put in the search bar that you're seeing the design seeds overview right now? And then I'm just going to switch back to avoid the sleeve window thing. Thank you, that's great. Okay, Janice, thank you so much, awesome. So the mood board I have created for my other business, Daydreaming Rose, for example, looks something like this. And I've created this in Canvas fairly simply. It took me like 20 minutes or so. And as I said, I have a course on Canva, and I'm also going to run another webinar on Canva giving you an introduction. And I'm using this before I create anything, like be this something on my website or my newsletter footer or my business cards. I come back to this mood board and I make sure that I use these exact colors and this font and my logo, and I make sure that the mood that I'm creating with the images I use kind of resembles something like this. So it's kind of like my guiding light in all the design work that I do. And I want to share some resources with you on how you can find inspiration for these kinds of colors and elements and bring them together. So one resource that I really love is Design Seeds. It's design-seeds.com. And it's cool because if you already have a color in mind that you really love, you can go by color at the top here, and then you can select one of this rainbow here. So say you're into purple, you could choose this one, and then you're going to get a really long list of color boards that all have similar kinds of purple, and they even give you the color code here. So this is the color code that you would need on your website and if you're working on Canva. And you're totally welcome to work with these, or you can bring different color boards together into one. Another place that I really love for inspiration is Pinterest. I have a color palettes and design ideas mood board here, and so I'm collecting, I love this one, for example. I'm collecting lots of color palettes here that I love, and then if I have a client who really doesn't know like where to start or like feels really overwhelmed, we look at this board together and kind of narrow it down. And you can, of course, also create a mood board specifically, bringing together different things. So if you go back to my profile, I have a board here called Daydreaming Rose Vision. So again, that's for my secondary business, and I've just repinned lots of images here that inspired me to create the design that I now have on Daydreaming Rose, if that makes sense. Cool. I'm gonna stop sharing my screen and come back, see if there's any questions. Oh, thank you, Chris. I'm glad that worked. Amazing. Cool. So let's come back to the presentation because I have more stuff to share. More about preparing amazing content for your web design project. So yeah, where do I start? There's really two different approaches, and that's basically the same whether you work with a web designer or not. And you can either think about the kind of layout and design you want to have. Maybe if you've seen something or you found a WordPress theme that you really love that you want to work with that is has a very particular layout, and you can then go in and create your content around that. So you work with what's there and you kind of write the different sections out and flesh things out that way. Or you can, and this is my preferred way of doing this, or you can think more about what you want to communicate, what you're offering, and how you can best present that information. You write it all down, and then you start and look into the design and the layouts. And I really think that is an easier way of doing it. So I would recommend that you sit down and make a map of all the pages that you will need. And sometimes, yeah, it's difficult. Like sometimes people want to be really creative and use like really unconventional titles in the menu bar. But I really recommend to be creative in other parts of your website because we have such a short attention span these days, and because we see so many different websites and often feel really overwhelmed, it's good to keep it really simple and provide people with something that they are already familiar with. So a very kind of classic layout would be home, about, work with me, possibly with a drop down if you're offering different things, then a blog page, then maybe testimonials, and then a contact page. And that's it. That's usually all you need, really. And so if you're unsure, I would recommend to use that framework to start out, and then ask yourself the following questions. What do you want to share about yourself? So how personal is this website going to be? And that really depends on the kinds of services that you're offering. So if you're offering something that really touches people's private lives, I always feel it's very nice to share a bit about yourself. Like, how did you come to do this work? And what is your personal take on that? If you're offering something that is, in air quotes, more professional, like a financial service or something, then of course there would be a different approach and other things would be more appropriate. And then how can you let people know what you're offering within seconds? So that's super, super important. It's like it's a main thing that I sometimes see people getting wrong and really kind of losing out on potential clients that way. People need to be on your site for 2 seconds and understand on a very basic level who you are and what you're offering. And you can do that by having a tagline. So I have web design and online marketing at the top of my website. People can see that right away. Or you can have a banner or something, or it could be making sense from your URL or from your logo. So if, for example, you're also a web designer and you're calling yourself like the Rainbow Design Studio, then people would have a better idea. But I would really double check that this is very easy to understand on a mobile as well. And then where do you want to lead people's attention to? So this is really important as well. And as I said, attention spans are really short. So I, for example, have my Work With Me section is called Play With Me, which I recently changed. I just wanted to have something more fun. And I have a drop down there. And then I'm also leading people kind of into my services by having graphics there. And then finally, how can you let people know how to take action? So when you're asking them to sign up for your newsletter, for example, or to get in touch to work with you, I would really make sure that it's super clear what they need to do. So let me give you an example from my own site to see how that works. I'm going to check for questions. No more questions. Okay, but feel free to stop me anytime and ask me questions. I want to share my browser. different evolutions. So it definitely has looked like this always. And if you want to embarrass me, or if you want to just feel a little bit better about your own humble beginnings, then I recommend the website Time Machine, where you can take any URL and put it into the time machine, and then you can see what the website looked like 2 years ago. And, if sometimes we're looking up to other people and we're just like, oh, I'm never going to be there, and this is so hard, that makes us feel really good. So what I meant to give you an example when I said, make it really clear how people can take action. They just need to put their name and email address in here. If they want to work together, I have a very clear drop down here where people can understand the different things that I'm doing. And then when I scroll down, I have an intro paragraph here, and then another Work With Me section. And again, it's clearly branded, and it takes 2 seconds to understand what is on offer here. And this is great for mobiles as well, because if you're looking at this from mobile, the menu bar at the top would be condensed. So people wouldn't necessarily see the Work With Me section, but they would see, when they scroll down, these graphics here, and then understand, they can go into these different places there and check that out. And the same is true for blog posts as well. So again, here, when I designed the sidebar for my blog post, I was thinking about where I want to lead people's attention to. So I have recent posts here for people who might want to read something else as well. If they are looking for something specific, there's a search bar here. And then again, here on the side, I'm repeating my offerings, because very often people will land on my blog post first. So they might have never seen my homepage, they've never heard of me before, and they're just landing on one of these blog posts. So if they're not seeing the menu bar, for example, if they're on a mobile, they wouldn't have no idea that I'm a web designer. So this is why these are here, and why I think that the sidebar is actually really important. Cool. Let me come back to you guys. And I wanted to share with you is some tips for writing your about page. So I would really say take your time with this one. This is not something that you want to do in your lunch break. It's just going to bring up a ton of feelings around visibility and, what parts of yourself do you want to share? I can say for myself that I still keep coming back to my about page sometimes, and to kind of reconsider and bring some more stuff in, take some stuff out, and it has really taken me a little while to feel totally happy with this. And I think also good to remember that, it's never forever set in stone. Write something that you're happy with now. Don't stress yourself out. Give it some time. But remember that it doesn't have to be perfect, because you own your website. You can always come back and make changes and adjust things as you go along, and things will definitely change. That's the experience of any business owner that I've spoken to. So I hope that kind of takes the edge off. And then I would say collect inspiration from other about pages that you love. So look at people that you have worked with. What does their about page look like? And make some notes about what images you liked. So maybe they had some personal images on there. Maybe you saw their kids or their dog or some travel images, or there was something about it that just made you trust that person and decide to work with them. So make a list of that. And think about making it personal and professional. So it's a super fine balance. And again, where this balance is, or the sweet spot, that depends on who you are as a person, and what your industry is, and what your priorities in your business are. So for me, being personal and professional means, on my personal side, I share a little bit about my journey, like how I came to be a web designer. There's a childhood picture of me. There's a picture of my dog as well. I share that I love this work so much because I love traveling, and so I'm really free and flexible. And then on the more professional end, I have a paragraph at the end where I list my professional qualifications, and some of them are linked, I believe, so people can see, that I know what I'm doing, which is great. And then I would say don't make it too long, and break it up with images and graphics. So that's, again, really related to the short attention span that we have, and it just being so much easier to understand what you're trying to communicate if there's beautiful graphics as well. And then tell people who you are and what your offer is in the first paragraph. Again, because the attention span is so short, some people are on a mobile, they might just scroll through for 2 seconds and they might not read anything, just look at the pretty pictures, but they then might read the first paragraph as well. So I would say in my case something like, hey, I'm Sarah, I'm a web designer and online marketing specialist. I help people build beautiful platforms online. Yeah, so before you start telling them about your children or your travels or anything like that, make it super clear who you are and what you're offering. And then finally, if you have a draft that you're fairly happy with, let it rest a little bit and ask your friends for input, because it's just hard to be authentic with this, and I feel that so much. I get this all the time. Very often when I work with a client, they will have experience a delay in providing the content from me, and they will just say like, oh, I'm just stuck with the about page still. I don't know what to say. I feel awkward. And I always say, like, get your friends on board and maybe even let them draft one for you and then bring different drafts together and see what you like about them. Cool, so we're always almost at the end. I want to make more space for your questions now. And I also want to say that I've really been enjoying doing this so much, like preparing it. It's been really great fun. I want my heart to see everyone sign up and ask questions beforehand as well. So I have lots of future plans for more webinars, and I would love to stay in touch with you. And I would love to hear from you also, specifically of what you would love to learn more about. So my current ideas are, well, I want to have one webinar on social media strategy for small businesses. I want to have one on creating your first course with Teachable, and then I want to have one on getting started with ConvertKit. So I'm going to come back to you guys now. Stop. So yeah, let me know if you have any more questions or if you have specific webinars that you would like me to run. I'm really, really happy with that. And I mean, I know that sometimes the ideas just come when you just hang up. So, feel free to send me an email or come onto my Facebook group and find me there. And I'm definitely up for that. I also wanted to offer you access to my courses. So as I said, I run 2 courses at the moment and a third one is coming. So I'm going to let you see the link for that. 1 second. Ta-da! Ta-da! So that should be there now. Yeah, I hope you can see it. Let me know if not. So basically, I'm offering 2 courses. One is do-it-yourself design with Canva, which is an introduction to Canva itself, which I'm using for all my designs. And it also teaches you like how you can select colors and fonts and images that work for your branding, and that really feels authentic. I think when we're starting out, sometimes we see all these beautiful websites, but it's kind of really hard to then find our own language with that and to feel, really authentic in what you're communicating rather than just copying someone else. So this course kind of leads you through these steps that I recommend. And then the second course that I'm offering is Do-It-Yourself WordPress Web Design, and that really holds your hand and it shows you everything from like how you install WordPress, how you set your menu bar up, how you can work with plugins and create the widget sidebar, how you can create your own page, the different pages. And I'm specifically going into detail with Divi because that's the theme I love, but it also looks at the broader themes that can come up with WordPress and really walks you through that. And then there's access to the Facebook group that I'm running as well. So if you're doing these courses and you're running into any problems, you can always share your work in progress there and ask for questions and also see what other people are doing. So that's like my main intention really also with running these webinars, is to have people feel less alone with what they're doing, and to, just for us, all of us, to create a community and support each other in that way. Because I absolutely love working from home, but it can also be just a bit isolating sometimes. And my experience is really that, the same things come over again. Oh, you're welcome, Chris. I'm really glad you enjoyed it. So yeah, so the offer is for everyone who has come to the webinar or watches the replay. You can get both courses for $111. There's also a payment plan, and it means that you're getting $28 off. So I'm going to send an email about this, and if you have any questions at all, email me anytime. And also, please. Oh, Janice said, oh, you have these courses and they're great. I'm really happy to hear that. That's amazing. Great. But as I said, does anyone have questions, or do you have any wishes for future webinars? Please don't be shy. Okay, well, thank you so, so much for coming today. It's been really great to do this. I did feel nervous in the beginning, but it was fine in the end. And I'm just really grateful you showed up and you gave me such sweet compliments. So thank you so much. Have a really beautiful day. Bye.